What's up, guys? It's Jam with OPTCG. Today, bringing you guys a very exciting video. So we are going to be talking about, once again, these new starter decks, which are going to be starter decks 15 through 20. Is going to be a reprint of Whitebeard, Green Uta, Blue Doofy, Purple Luffy, Black Smoker, and Yellow Katakuri. If you have not heard, I have a video where I went over all of the new cards in all these decks. So basically, each of these decks are getting 5 new cards each. So all those new 25 cards, I will have it linked in the description. You can go check that out if you have not seen those already. But this has just dropped as of last week, and there's a lot of new cards that have just been cast into the meta, and they are making a bit of a difference. You know, RP Law is the #1 best leader. You know, pretty much completely agreed, uncontested. Lucci right behind. And that's kind of just how the meta's been going, unfortunately, in the East. Probably one of the least diverse metas this game has ever really seen. So people are calling for RP Law bans and stuff. However, these guys have gotten thrown in, and there have been a few tournament wins already off the rip with decks utilizing these new cards. So what I want to do today is just go over 3 of some tournament winning lists that are utilizing a few of the new cards included in the new starter decks. And talk about, you know, are these going to make a huge difference in the meta? Is RP Law still going to be #1? Or are these new starter deck additions really going to shake up the meta in OP08 for us in the East? But anyways, without further ado, let's get into our first list here. It is going to be none other than the Whitebeard himself. Edward Newgate is back with a first place win in a flagship. Really good for this leader. He'll get a random win here and there. But this one is different because we have a few of the new cards utilized. You have your usual 9-drop Edward Newgate, Jozu, Marco, Ace, you know, the usual Ezo Searcher, everything like that. However, as we can see here, we have 4 new cards this deck is running. First here, we have Atmos. It's going to be if your leader is Edward Newgate, you cannot add life cards to your hand, use your own effects during this turn. So just a 4/5 that we can now attack with and prevent our leader from taking life. I don't really know if this card is great against, say, a deck like RP Law. It's really not getting to attack before it gets removed the next turn, so, or even Lucci. So honestly, I don't really like this card in this deck, but hey, this guy won his flagship, so, you know, I'm going to say maybe this card's good because I'm not going to lie, yeah, preventing yourself from taking life would be pretty strong if you can manage it. Next up here, we're running King Do is just a 3/4 Whitebeard blocker. This one's really strong. It's going to be when this character's KO'd, leader's going to get plus 2k for the turn. So basically saying, if you want to KO me and get around the blocker, you're not really going to swing at me for the rest of the turn because, you know, I'm Newgate, so now I'm an AK leader. Just very strong. Obviously against RP Law, this doesn't do anything. The only good thing against RP Law is this is a 4k stat line, which is like one of the most annoying stat lines for RP Law to get rid of, because you have to overpower reduction with a Gordon or Raise Max, or even waste an Otama out of your hand to get rid of this thing. So pretty good card, honestly, that I think definitely belongs in this meta, as it's pretty good into Lucci and Law. Next up here, also running Thatch, one of the new Whitebeard 2Ks. This thing's effect is not really great. I think we're pretty much just running this for the 2K. And last but not least, one of the coolest cards that is a new addition to this deck, it's going to be Ace, which is a 5/6, which is going to get Rush if your leader is Whitebeard Pirates, and then once per turn, if this character will be removed from play by one of your opponent's effects. So this is any effect, right? This is even bottom deck effects from RP Law. You can give this character minus 2,000 power for this turn instead. Really cool card. Preventing removal is always insane, especially on a 5/6 rusher with counter. This card's really good. And I think definitely a really great addition to this deck, ending up taking the flagship. I think this might have been the first or second day after it came out. So props to this person for winning with the deck, and really looking forward to if, say, Whitebeard or even Blue and Red Marco will end up topping in the future due to these new additions. I know the new 7-cost Newgate is going to be really good in Marco. Yeah, I don't really think it's great for this deck, though. Going to our second deck list here, we're going to be talking about Blue Doflamingo himself, the leader that I think has been just getting support shoved down his throat for like EB, OP08, maybe not OP08, EB, OP07, And now in these starter decks as well, Doofy is getting a ton of support. And I think we might be reaching the breaking point here. Because as you can see, this list here, this looks just like a standard battle tournament. Got first place. I'm not sure how many players were in this, so this could be a bit of a smaller tournament. I'm not going to say this is the most broken deck or anything like that, but it did win the tournament, which means it's probably pretty decent. So let's look at the list. You have your usual Doofy stuff, your 3-drop Doofy, Gecko Moria, Mihawk 2K, Crocodile 2K, Jinbeis. Obviously got to run those. 4-cost Boa Hancock is a bit strange to me. I don't really think this gets ran anymore. This Doflamingo as well. You know what I think this list is going for? This is 100% hit rate leader effect. So you don't need to play Perona. You just go for leader every turn and you always get it. I think the only target in this entire deck that is not going to be a hit off your leader is going to be the 7-drop Gravity Blades, which is just, removal that you kind of need if you're only running characters. So pretty much never whiffing with this leader. You barely even need the 3-drop Doofy. Obviously, this is good to get early so you can guarantee a Jinbei into a Weevil. But, I mean, you don't need it, right? You're going to always use this leader effect and get something good out. So, I kind of like this list. As for the new cards, though, we are running 4 of this Crocodile, which I think is absolutely insane. It's just going to be on play. You can reveal the top card from your deck. If it's a 7 Warlords of the C-type card, which, as we said, is the entire deck, minus 4 cards. You're going to be able to draw 2 and then place 1 back at the top of your deck. So really, really strong, right? If we're on, say, 7 Dawn, you can just play this out for 4, draw 2, place 1 back at the top, and then guarantee leader effect, which with whatever Warlord you want, right? So not only is this getting you draw because you're drawing 2 and getting rid of 1, so it's a +1. Also, just, a good stat of body. This honestly could have been a 4/4 and it still would have been decent. Because Doofy kind of needs draw. That's definitely one of the things this deck is a little bit lacking. Yeah, this card's really, really strong for sure. Also here running a card I think is absolutely broken. 4/6 Boa Hancock with blocker. Again, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Place them in any order on the top or bottom of your deck. Then give 1 to 7 Warlords of the C-type leader or character. 1 Rested Dawn. Obviously working with your leader effect that already needs attached Dawn. So, on your 6 Dawn turn, you can play this out for 4, attach 1 to lead, attach 1 more for leader effect. You looked at the top 3, so you know what you're doing for leader effect. And now we have a 4/6 blocker and whatever the hell you just wanted to play off your leader effect. This card is cracked. I think this is the card that's going to kind of boost this deck into a little bit less than obscurity and possibly even a meta contender. And last but not least here, we have 2 of Marshall D. Teach. This one is situational. I don't really love this card just because it negs 1 out of hand. The good thing about Doofy is you're always adding a card onto board from the top of your deck and not from your hand, right? So we don't need to expend resources from our hand. We can utilize our deck to not run out of cards in hand quickly. This one kind of circumvents that, right? Because we have to put 1 on the top of our deck, but it does highly increase consistency for the exact card we want. Also, another target for leader effect. This is when Blackbeard was a 7 Warlord. So, really solid card. But yeah, I think a 2 of is, I think, a good spot for this card for sure. And definitely a very menacing list. Interested to see if this is where people are going to go with Doofy, right? Are we just going to go 100% hit rate Warlords? Because, I could see it. I think the ability just to keep aggroing your opponent down 7k and then always, no matter what, establishing a body is really, really strong. Obviously, the lack of large characters could be an issue, right? Once we reach the late game against Luchis and stuff, your board is going to be very easily removable, and you're not really going to have any huge threats on the board. So we will see. I think the deck's really strong, and looking forward to seeing what people do with it in the East once again. But getting into our last list here, one I probably want to talk about the most is going to be Purple Luffy. This one actually won, I think, on the day of release of the starter decks. The shop was running an event on that day, and this one got first place out of 58 players. So this is one where we do have the total player count, and a 58-player tournament, is no small tournament. That's pretty much bigger than every local ever. I know there's some locals that get crazy amount of people, maybe even up to 58, but this is a very, very large tournament. Many rounds, and this one managed to take it, right? When RP Laws were in the tournament, I think I saw this posted on Twitter. It's not like he dodged RP Laws. No, we saw the best deck in the meta and managed to win through 58 rounds on first place with this deck. So let's go ahead and check out the Luffy deck here. So we have your standard purple Luffy stuff, right? Your ulti page 1 for, you know, your ramp on into 4 Dawn, play these 2 out. Your 9-drop Kaidos, you gotta run those. Queens, Magellans, Polys, Kids, right? The complete usual absolute staples for this deck. But now, on the other half here, we have our Straw Hat package that we can now run that has been introduced very recently with the starter deck and one new Sanji 2K here, which I think Purple Luffy was already running before this was even introduced. But yeah, so we are running this. Main thing with the Straw Hat package, we have this card right here, which is going to be a 4/6 Zoro, if you have not seen it yet, and it's just going to be look at the top 5 and search a Straw Hat. So we have a 4/6 Vanilla Searcher that can search himself. This does not include Zoro. So really, really good card because Luffy was already ramping to 4 and playing out a 4/6 Vanilla. Now we can play a 4/6 Vanilla that adds another card to hand, right? Like, this is very, very strong, and this is exactly what the deck needed. Question is, what other new cards are we running on top of that? It's going to be this new 2K Usohachi, which is very, very strong. It's going to be, if you have 8 or more Dawn, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. So this is kind of like a super Ezo in green, right? Ezo coming in handy a lot of the time when you need to go for game. Your opponent has a blocker up, but only reaching that 4 cost stat line is kind of rough because there's a whole lot of 5K blockers in this game. Which means this card is pretty cracked, right? Because resting a 5 for 3 is so good, especially when we have cards like Kaido and stuff on board, which makes it really easy to go for game in a lot of situations. Next up here, we have Songoro, another introduction in ST18. It's going to be a 5/6 1,000 counter. When attacking once per turn, if you have 8 or more Dawn, draw 1 card. So if this card was just on its own, I don't think it would really be worth playing. You know, it's decent, but, right, RP Law is the best deck in the meta. If we're just playing a 5/6 that does nothing, it's going to get removed before it can attack, right? So why are we running this? We're running this because we need more targets for the man right here. Luffy Taro is a 7/8, no counter on play, Dawn -1. You can play up to 1 purple character with the cost of 5 or less and Straw Hat Pirates from your hand, right? So now we understand why we're playing this card. It's because if we were playing this, and no Sanji, the only targets we'd have are Zoro, which is great, and Sanji 6K blocker, which is also great. But we need a little more targets than that for this to be worth running. But now we are able to actually get a really, really solid curve, which is go first on 3, ramp to 4, right? We just play a Zoro, maybe we even search this out. And then next turn we are on 6, ramp to 7, you play Luffy, play out Sanji. Now we have a absolutely menacing board that is really, really hard to remove. And if you don't remove Sanji, we are now drawing more cards on top of that. Really, really strong deck. Very, very good buff for this leader for sure. Interesting to see what people will do with this deck. I think there's a slot for 10-drop Luffy, just maybe like a 1-of for ending games. Now searchable in the deck with Zoro, so, you know, 1-of is not too bad when it's searchable. So I like this deck, and it might be the deck I play when these starter decks come out. So really, really looking forward to that. But with that being said, guys, that is going to be the video. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you're looking forward to ST15 and 20 as much as I am. Really, really excited to see if these decks can make a difference in that current meta, as I think it's kind of one of the lamest metas we've ever seen. And as someone that really does love this game a lot, I don't want it to kind of fizzle out because every single top 4 is a 4-of RP Law, right? The diversity in OP07 is awesome, and I really, really wish that for OP08. So let's hope these starter decks can do it. It's kind of looking up so far, so looking forward to that. But with that being said, you guys have a great day. This has been Jim with OPTCG, and I'm going to head out of here. Peace.